Well, can we fly?
No fuel goes to the Glossair engines.
Damn. Vaughn, you're in charge. I'm checking the engine room.
Right.
Fran, with me.
Look! Bahamut's Glossair rings are stopping!
Vaughn, as soon as the Strahls rings move, you take off. Understood? You can fly her, Vaughn. Just do it like I told you.
Don't worry.
Penelo, watch for interference from Bahamut's Skystone. The Strahls a fickle girl. You keep her working for us.
I'll see what I can do.
Bash, look after Larsa, will you? If House Solidor should crumble, the Empire would fail, and civil war would take us all.
I understand.
The Lord Larsa is our last hope.
Vaughn, the power's back. We can go.
Right. Let's go. Grab onto something.
Sir, it's the Stroll. She's left Bahamut. She's moving away.
The Stroll. They made it. At last. The Bahamut has fallen. The final test is upon us. The judges shall rule us no more. Main cannon on the Alexander.
This is Judge Magister Gabon. All forces cease fire. I repeat, all units of the Arcadian army, hold your fire.
The battle is over. As of this moment, we have signed a ceasefire with the Shelia Benargan Delmasca, her Royal Majesty.
Attention, this is Larsa Farinus Solidor.
My brother Vayne has died with honor in battle. The Imperial fleet is now under my command.
Sir, your orders, sir.
This is Ashelia Delmasca.
The Lady Ash. Thank the gods you live.
I confirm what Judge Magister Gabranth and Larsa Solidor have said here.
Please stand down your attack. The war is over. Ivalice looks to the horizon.
A new day has dawned. We are free. Look, Vaughn, the Bahamut.
A message from the Alexander.
Take it.
Sir.
This is Judge Zargabath, captain of the Alexander, flagship of the 12th Damascan Fleet of the Arcadian Army.
I address all ships in Rabanastre's airspace. The Bahamut must not be allowed to fall on the city of Rabanastre.
We are preparing to ram her. Do not interfere.
Madness.
Should she fall, the paling will not hold.
And all Rabanastre will be obliterated. All ships, concentrate your fire on the Alexander's remains once Bahamut is clear of the city.
Balthier? Wait! Balthier, where are you?
Oh, Vaughn. Sounds like you made it out okay. The Stral's a fine airship, eh?
What does he think he's doing? Balthier!
Marquis, stop that fool judge on the Alexander for me, would you? Just getting somewhere with these glossair rings. Almost done. Don't want him ramming me before I fix them, do we?
Balthier, do you understand exactly what it is you're doing?
Princess! No need to worry. I hope you haven't forgotten my role in this little story. I'm the leading man. You know what they say about the leading man? He never dies. Let's fly! Fran, power to the glossair rings. Fran? Do I have to do everything around here?
Listen to me, Balthier. Get out of Bahamut immediately.
Please, Balthier! You mustn't die!
Please, Balthier. Come back.
I'd say you're in more of a supporting role.
Fran, please. Vaughn, the Stral's in your hands. You'd better take care of her, you hear? If there's one scratch on her when I get back...
Roger that. We'll be waiting for you.
Balthier!
Say my love is all you need to see you through. But I know these words are not quite true.
It's hard to believe a year has passed so quickly. Rabanastre is finally back to the way it was, like when my parents were still alive. We've lost so much, but I think it's important to put the past behind us and keep our eyes on the road ahead. Ash's coronation is next month. She grows farther and farther away from us, but I guess that's how it has to be. She is queen now, after all. I am looking forward to seeing you at the ceremony.
You called, my lord.
I know he went with you to Arcades to further the cause of peace in Ivalice, but still, I hope he comes back to Rabanastre and Ash soon. She has to keep up appearances now, so she would never say it, but I think she misses him.
Lose Larsa, and we lose the Empire. Protect him. I would entrust him to no other's care.
I will keep him from harm. I promise you.
for the Empire and for Dalmasca.
Your words put me at ease, brother. Sorry to leave you.
As time goes by, I know you'll see this is me. I love you enough to let you go free.
Oh, I haven't told you the most important part. Vaughn and I had been taking care of the straw, but it was stolen. We had just finished having her tuned up, too.
What's it say? Give it here.
All your fears into the sky. Kiss me goodbye.
Actually, stolen might not be the right word. If her owner wants her back, there's not much we can do about it, is there?
All of my life, I'll hold you close to me. Won't shed a tear for love.
There's still plenty of time before the coronation. So Vaughn's going to pay the two of them a visit. You should see him. He can hardly wait.
In my reality. Kiss me goodbye.
I'll be going too, of course. Every good sky pirate needs a partner, right?
And there we have it. That was Final Fantasy XII, the final Final Fantasy game released for the PlayStation 2, really at the end of its life cycle. I have to say, it was really one that brings out a lot of mixed emotions and memories and all that kind of stuff. Because on one hand, it is clearly, I'd have to say it's not as good as Final Fantasy X was. And maybe that's only because X was really just a really good game, incredible game, if you think about it. And 12 was something that inspired a lot of different reactions from different people. A lot of the long-time fans of the series didn't like 12 because of, well, I mean, it kind of changed kind of perspective of the story not taking place from the perspective of the character who's very important to the story. And a lot of the gameplay changes were not terribly well received by a lot of people. On one hand, the change to the battle system that they used was a pretty good advancement for the series. On the other hand, that kind of a big change is going to alienate a lot of old, long-time fans. And it more closely resembled the combat situation in the game Parasite Eve than it did any of the other Final Fantasy games. And this game, partly because of the battle scene, battle engine, and partly because of the way that it portrays its story, it was one that I think it was really intended to sort of broaden the audience for the Final Fantasy series. Final Fantasy XII was meant to bring more people, new people, into the fold of fans of the series. And a lot of the sort of review outlets looked favorably on 12 when they didn't really care so much for the previous games. Like, for example, I remember the TV show X-Play never really, they weren't huge Final Fantasy guys, but 12 came out like, oh, it's actually okay, it's pretty good, huh? But it's not the long-time fans that really loved it, And it's the long-time fans that are likely to think about the game later on. Like Final Fantasy X was re-released, and Square is making all sorts of money off of that right now. I don't think they can get away with releasing 12 over again, because it didn't really gain that strong backing. I mean, it may have sold a lot at the time, and it may have attracted some new fans to the series, but those new fans are not the typical types of fans who are likely to, for example, spend several hours playing an LP of this and post it up on YouTube. Weird, huh? On the other hand, there are a lot of things that I feel that this game really did do right, storyline-wise. I did like the battle system, I did like the graphical style, and I did like some of the characters. But storyline-wise, it did do a few things right that I have to say was really a good idea. For example, they kind of retired that really tired, cliched storyline of an intense love story going on between the lead male character and the lead female character, like they had done in 7, 8, 9, 10, 6, if you think about it a little bit like that, between Celis and Locke. But they didn't really go with that route, and they easily could have. And in fact, I remember that being one of the things that they specifically made clear about while they were previewing the game, is that Ash, the first female character that they had showed in concept art and all that kind of stuff, and Vaughn, the first male character that they had shown, that the two of them were not in any sort of love story. In fact, in a certain respect, Ash, at times, doesn't really even care for Vaughn. He's just there because he does what he does, and he does it pretty good. And I think it was a pretty good idea for them to implement another character, which was Penelo, to be a sort of fill that role a little bit in regards to Vaughn. Now, it's never really revealed in any way what kind of relationship they really did have. If there was this sort of like a sibling type relationship, even though they weren't actually brother and sister, or if they were actually boyfriend, girlfriend, or anything like that. But the fact that Penelo exists there with Vaughn kind of like gives you some sort of like obvious trajectory in the story that there's not going to be a big love story between Ash and Vaughn. And in fact, most of the characters were in fact forgettable. Penelo, obviously a very forgettable character, even though she was the one that did the friggin' monologue at the end, that wrote the letter that was being read during the ending cinematic. And other characters like Bosch, even though he probably could have made a pretty good main character of this game, not really that memorable. Even Ash wasn't terribly memorable. Vaughn, friggin' forgettable, because he wasn't important to the story once again. But the character of Balthier in particular was a very well-received character. It's because he's a friggin' badass dude that uses big words when he talks. And that kind of thing struck a pretty strong chord with a lot of players and all of that. Overall, though, I think the cast was probably the weakest aspect of this game. Had they had a bit more of a stronger cast, more memorable cast, even whether memorable in a good way or like off the top of my head, I can probably name all the characters in 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all those games, but until I had started playing this game again, I couldn't remember all of their names, I don't think. I probably would have forgotten that Penelo was there because she wasn't important to the story. And, I mean, all that kind of stuff kind of bogs down people's perception of the game. Storyline-wise, it was also, as far as plot goes, it was a pretty big change because it was much more politically focused than the earlier games in the series, or later games in the series up until this point, where you felt like it wasn't just your adventurers going to save the world, it was your adventurers caught pretty much the entire game between two situations where they either commit this abhorrent act of destroying the Empire as revenge, or even in self-defense or in protection of themselves by using the Netherite, or and whatever consequences may come of that, or allowing the Empire to just sort of roll over them, laying down and basically sacrificing yourself to protect your enemy. And that was this thing, that this constant nagging problem that was digging at the character of Ash this entire game. And I think that was a pretty well done thing there. Because on one hand, obviously, like, there's this romanticized notion of fighting to the last man. And that's not necessarily a practical thing, but it's something a lot of people seem to think is like this really honorable thing to do. And even in the beginning of the game, it was noted by Judge Gabranth posing as Bosch that that the king intended to sell them out to the Empire, surrendering when they shouldn't. They should be fighting to the last man, but nobody agreed with that fact. And it brought out later an even larger scale, and with either the destruction of Arcadia or Rabanastre and all that kind of stuff. And it brought out a lot of, like a more complex and ambivalent feeling over your mission in this game, rather than simple, we need to stop Meteor, we need to kill Sephiroth and stop Meteor, and that's a rather simple, straightforward goal, as opposed to this one where it's sort of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Now, it obviously ended up pretty well for these people in this game, so it ended up working out well in the end, but it didn't really become obvious that that was going to happen until very, very late in the story. Right up until the end. Well, anyway, I've talked long enough, and this has been going on for nearly 23 minutes. So I'll say thank you for watching my Let's Play for the series for the game Final Fantasy XII. If you like what I've done here, there are a number of other games, not just Japanese role-playing games, but also have done like the Resident Evil games and the Silent Hill games and all that kind of stuff. Feel free to check out any of those. So, thank you for watching, and goodbye.